Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Roll Pod. Per usual, our Wednesday previews for the upcoming matchup happen on every Wednesday. So again, happy Wednesday. It is Vanderbilt week. Alabama coming off a huge win at Georgia over the weekend. We recorded early Sunday morning after the late night. We had talked about it. Game day hadn't been announced at the time of the recording. I think it was announced soon after that. Game day is coming to campus. I believe it was Mike, but I can't remember. I think he kind of put it in the head, and I'm like,
you're giving me accurate credit, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, you look at the slate, and it's like, I don't think they're going to go to Florida State, and so who would have thunk it, Mike? I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I know you have some statistics. Just maybe throw out something like Vandy's a top 20 team.
Yeah, they are.
Vandy at game day in Tuscaloosa. Just kind of set the scene a little bit.
No, Vandy's. This is the first time they've been involved in a game day game since 2008 against Auburn, which, again, is not terribly surprising. This is the first time Vandy's been undefeated facing Alabama since 2017, which is funny because Nick Saban on College Game Day on Saturday kind of brought up that stat. He's like, oh, Vandy's going to be undefeated going into Tuscaloosa. When's the last time that happened? It was actually 2 games ago or 3 games ago against Vandy. And that was the year where they beat Kansas State before then. And they had a player that said, Bama's next or whatever the quote was. And then you always see this. I've seen it a ton this week already. The video where it then cuts to Jalen Hurts, saying theoretically they're next on our schedule. That's something that Saban's brought up in terms of revenge or not revenge, but other teams talking. Yeah. I think he brought that up before the Florida State game and, other teams talking before a game and how sometimes that can be motivating. And if Vandy hasn't been ranked against Alabama in any game since 1958. In fact, Alabama was not ranked in that game back in 58. If you remember that, I bet you that Kirk McNair remembers it. That was a 0-0 tie that ended in. So really thrilling game there. And this is the first time that they've played each other both ranked since 1937, which was Thanksgiving Day in Nashville. 9-7 win for Alabama. So
what was the weather then?
I don't think James Spann was alive back then. There was no weather. Weather does not exist without James Spann.
What I'm hearing is we're gonna talk later about Alabama handling success. How will Vanderbilt handle success? This is
there was
a moment.
People were like, "Oh, is Vandy overlooking Utah State last week?" They're looking forward to Alabama, but this is certainly a Vandy team that. I don't think they're running their mouth. That's I think a little bit of misconception. I don't think Diego Pavia has really said anything. I think there is the Johnny Manziel connection, and he's always kind of been a Johnny Manziel fan. In fact, last night I was going back and watching parts of last year's game, just seeing because there's a lot of talk about how Pavia is different this year. He's more of a passer. I was trying to see how was he as a passer last year? I kind of forget. And it was Cole Kubelik who was calling the game for SEC Network and said they talked to Pavia before that game. And he's watched that Johnny Manziel win in Tuscaloosa, the Bryant-Denny 2012 game, 100 times is what he told him. And he watched it again before he played Alabama last year. I can only imagine he's probably going to watch it this week as well.
He may watch the actual Vanderbilt-Alabama game a couple times.
Right.
Like his own game, but go ahead.
Maybe, yeah. And Manziel's, it's not a great comparison in terms of play style. Manziel's faster. Pavia's a little bit more compact. Different running style, I think, between them two. But obviously there's a kind of a swagger to both of them and a motivation for Pavia to have Manziel at the game. They had dinner Sunday night, and Manziel came out and said he's going to be here. So, it's not very often that people beat Alabama in Bryant-Denny. Manziel is one of the few that have done it. Really since Saban got going. So an interesting game, man. It's I was listening to Mark Ingram this morning in his podcast. He said Vandy is a real deal, and I don't disagree with him. I think, especially on offense, this is a Vandy team that has they're very balanced between being able to run the ball. Cedric Alexander, they were able to do that last year against Bama. to throw the ball to Eli Stowers, into Junior Sherrill at wide receiver. Pavia is really seeing things pretty well. And this offense would certainly scare me against Alabama's defense and some of the issues that they've had. Conversely, I think Alabama has a big opportunity against this Vandy defense because this Vandy defense is giving up some points and some yards. So look for a shootout, I think, is potentially it's to take the over game in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I think
everything about this just doesn't make sense with covering the SEC for 15 years. Like,
no.
This doesn't add up. And props to Vanderbilt for making all this happen. Jared Kill, Diego Pavia, Eli Stowers. Age of the transfer portal, just bought half New Mexico State and it worked.
Who would have thought that New Mexico State would be that much time? You can get it from anywhere. I know it's not important, but people do care about the game day picker. Do you have any who it seems to be like Alabama has so many, I don't want to say options with NFL talent, things like that, but they always bring Joe Namath back. And it's just like, I don't know. And maybe I'm just drawn out. I'm caught up.
Maybe it's Joe. I don't think you can do Miss Terry again. Like I thought about that briefly.
How about Nate Oates?
You could do Nate Oates.
Just kind of.
The thing is, they want somebody with a huge profile.
Right.
They're not going to do it, but like Bargatze would be a great pick because he's a Vanderbilt guy. But I don't think they're going to do an opposing, opponent. Maybe they do like a wrestler or something like that. They do have the former Alabama track and field guy who's into wrestling now. Maybe they bring him out. I don't know. They could go a lot of different directions.
Yeah, I know. It's always just kind of a fun game to play with. And then I don't know. Alabama fans seem to always be disappointed but.
I don't know. And I was looking at who's not playing in the NFL, who has a bye week this week, who plays Thursday night. There's just not a whole lot of options in terms of players that would be available on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Mac Jones, I think, would be one, but he's also hurt for the 49ers, and that's a long trip. I don't know if that would make sense because they play Thursday night. But I don't know. It's a good question. Alabama's always a weird one because there's not an obvious one. I don't know if Joe Namath is showing up for a Vandy game as opposed to a Tennessee or LSU game. But game day might be back. I mean, it's not inconceivable that they come for the Tennessee or even the Oklahoma game later on. That's all possible. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Greg Sankey is your guest picker.
Take
a victory lap on the depth of the SEC.
Absolutely. Let's put a final bow kind of on Georgia. I know we had a very long reaction on Sunday, but just couple days removed, anything kind of you're still at the top of your mind that, hey, this is something that Alabama fans need to be talking about more or less, for better or worse? Alex, we'll start with you.
They don't want to hear it from me, apparently, but the inability to run the football, the inability to stop the run. And look, you're going to need both of those things against Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt has changed and they can be more of a passing team. I think it would be a mistake on their part to overdo that, because Alabama has not shown an ability to stop the run. And then you're going to need to give your defense a chance to catch your breath. So you're going to need to be able to sustain drives. They've been able to do that throwing the football, but what happens when it, have a couple 3 and outs? You need to have more production out of that running game. That's sort of where it's at to me. It continues to be those things. The offensive line is something we're going to watch, but I don't think it obviously wasn't a problem against Georgia. But I think Mike is about to say that Vanderbilt has a better pass rush than Georgia. So just add that to the list of very weird things that are happening in the year of our 2025.
That statement, I just want to take a second, just to your point, Alex, you covered for 15 years, and you just said Vanderbilt has a better pass rush than Georgia. I just want to make and it's 100% true. Yeah. It's just the day and age.
You can go back, and every time I talked about the schedule or ranked SEC teams, I said Georgia has lost 1 million people to the NFL draft and the transfer portal on defense the last 3 years, and that has caught up with them. And it's amazing they haven't been able to backfill a little bit better, but at the same time, that attrition adds up. And what is Vanderbilt really good at? Holding on to players, because they take projects more than anything. So Georgia's got some soul searching to do this offseason about how they're going to maintain what they've seen as their dominance as far as defense in the SEC the last 5 years.
And just to bring up the pass rush, I know we're meandering in the show, but that's fine. I think people are getting good info.
Yeah.
Alabama actually, I was a little bit surprised to see this stat. Defensively, they rank 11th in the country in pressure percentage. I think a lot of that's probably the Wisconsin game, maybe the ULM game as well. I just didn't feel like they were getting a ton of pressure on Stockton.
This is like the anti-Nick Saban rant. Pressure is great. You have to complete the pressure and turn it into a sack because and if you have a really good front seven and they don't miss tackles, then yeah, it's fine. They'll clean up your mess for you. It's only a 1 or 2 yard gain. But too often we've seen a pressure on the quarterback, scramble 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 yards.
Right. And it's for Alabama, the sample size has been very small in terms of teams throwing the ball against them. I've brought up the stat before, but 17 pass attempts averaged against Alabama through 4 games. That's fewest if you're excluding service academy games. It's the fewest through 4 games against any team since Clemson in 2018. So teams just have not thrown the ball. If you look at dropbacks as a totality number, 89 dropbacks from opponents. In terms of, look at the next closest team is 98 for UCLA, but almost every team's well over 100. Vanderbilt had 193 dropbacks, so basically double as many as, or more than double again, as Alabama's had. And Vandy is right up there as well in terms of pressure percentage. They're number 18 in the country, 37%. They've had 14 sacks. Miles Capers has 3.5 sacks. He was the guy who strip sacked Jalen Milroe last year. Pretty key play in that game. And I believe Capers has forced 4 fumbles since last year, between this last season and so far this year. So that's it might be the best pass rusher you've faced all season is him. And that's, again, weird to say, given that Georgia usually has somebody, but Georgia doesn't really have that guy this year. That was one of their weaknesses coming into the game. And that's, I think, what allowed Alabama to play the game that they did was Ty Simpson was not getting pressured. And they felt pretty comfortable going to empty backfields. And, it just wasn't a game like Florida State. I think 19 total pressures that they faced. Georgia, I think, was 10. So basically half the number. And Ty was really comfortable, and Ty was slinging it. So we'll have to see how well Vandy's able to kind of get after him, or if they play back more and they try to stop the big play from Alabama. I think that's part of the MO of this Vandy defense, based on what I've heard from our Vandy writer. So, the Vandy defense versus Alabama offense is not the sexy matchup in this game. I think it's more Pavia against Alabama's defense, but I think what's going to determine the game is how well Ty Simpson can play against this Vandy defense. If you can put up 45, 50 points against them, you win this game. I don't think Pavia is doing that against you. So
that's what I was going to kind of ask about this offensive game plan. Like you said, again, Vanderbilt has better pass rushers and probably overall better defense than Georgia at this point. So you're going to probably attack a little bit better, a little bit differently. But do you think the game plan remains the same for Ryan Grubb and Ty Simpson against his Vanderbilt team, where they're going to continue to try to establish a run and then pass? Like you guys said, they beat Georgia in the way that we felt they had. This team has shown what they are. So do you think that's just going to continue against a team like Vanderbilt? They're going to continue to try to feed Jam and then get Ty his opportunities, or get some design runs or anything like that? Alex, Mike?
Yeah, I think Jam is what he is. He's a solid player. He's dependable. He's going to give you all the little things at a really high level, but I don't think he's a guy you feed 25 rushes a game. Yep. Maybe Kevin Riley comes on and he becomes a guy who you have to feature more, but there's no question how this offense is built. It's built from the outside in. And when you have the talent they have at receiver, I have no problem going that way. It's not like you're turning away from a really productive running game. Right. The question for me continues to be, A, what are you getting out of Ryan Williams, because he continues to be up and down, but B, how Ty uses his legs and how often that sort of comes up. He didn't have to do it too terribly much against Georgia, but will Vanderbilt be able to attack him more and get more pressure, and how does he respond to that?
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the advanced stats as far as Vandy's rush defense, and they're one of the better, rush defenses in the country based on the raw numbers. I mean, some of that you'd have to adjust for opponents, and Vandy's schedule has not been great so far in terms of difficulty.
And they've been playing with the lead most of the time, so not exactly running the ball.
Right. There is some advanced stats that we have, like EPA, expected points added, where Vandy's 21st in the country in rush defense. So we'll see. I do think Alabama's going to try to run the ball. I think they're certainly – that's one of the things, even go back to the summer with Grubb, when he was talking about what he learned from Seattle, and it basically getting away from the run too much, I think is what he was hinting at in terms of what went wrong for him in the NFL last year. And it's always something that Kalen DeBoer brings up. Whenever somebody mentions how his offense is pass heavy, he always talks about how important the run game is to open up the pass, especially in the play action. So I do think they still want to try to run. You might have an opportunity to do it against Vandy's defense, but if you can't, then you're going to have to manufacture. And that's what they did a pretty good job of in this Georgia game, was finding other ways to run the ball, essentially, whether it's Proctor's play or the very last play of the game, the Jam Miller dump off there. There's, the Horton or the Bernard to Horton pass out of the backfield. Like, there's all sorts of different things they were doing instead of just handing the ball to Jam and have him run up to somebody's back for 2 yards.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the offensive line, but not the rotations. We're not talking about that, Alex. Don't worry. I was just kind of thinking a little bit more lighthearted. That Caden Proctor play, I think I was talking with you guys. I was talking about, like, initial thought was, I don't know if they're going to be able to run that again. But the more I kind of think about it, do you think, they're going to continue to do that this fall? Do you guys think? I don't know how often, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's more. I don't think it was being set up all game. I'm like 5 minutes into the Georgia game. I watched a clip last night. Caden Proctor was in motion. It was just, I don't know. I just feel like that's a play that.
So I asked Ty about that yesterday, because I said there was 2 plays before that, or not technically plays, but you were lined up twice with Proctor wide. You had the false start by Jam Miller, and then you had the other play where they were substituting William Sanders and Jackson Lloyd, and they screwed it up and they had to call timeout. He actually said that wasn't the Proctor play that we know it to be. So maybe there's something else. I think you might have to use that play to set up another play. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks you're going to be throwing or lateraling to Caden Proctor, and then you do something else out of it. I think you use it as a decoy from here on out.
Yeah. I agree with that. And ultimately, it's a risky play, right? Because you do have to throw it laterally. And if he drops the ball, it's a fumble, and then all bets are off. So I think, if anything, it's a decoy. And I think that is kind of one of the things we didn't see a ton of last year, that when you talk to guys who have played with or coached with Ryan Grubb or Kalen DeBoer, they do like to go for trick plays. They like to have those in. So I don't know how much we see Ty Simpson and Caden Proctor, but I think we're going to continue to see different wrinkles in this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else kind of on the offense, both overviews, specifically to Vanderbilt, before we kind of flip over to the defensive side of the ball? Mike, Alex, anything kind of?
Ryan Williams, I think is.
Yeah, I did want to bring that up. I don't, but it's more like
you don't know. That's
right.
The thing. You don't know what you're getting week to week out of him, and that's the problem. And look at the snap counts. Like Horton and Bernard were almost double what Ryan Williams was in this game, and that could be the formula going forward until Ryan Williams is more consistent. And the drops are an issue. Kirk Herbstreit was kind of ripping for the blocking, and our buddy AJ McCarron was ripping him for not running fast enough over the middle and running his routes with enough authority, or whatever it might be.
Do we think they need to abandon Ryan Williams in the slot?
That was the whole thing.
If he's not comfortable doing it, Jeremy Bernard is. We know that. I don't think Isaiah Horton is averse to doing it. I don't think Lazier Brooks is averse to doing it.
What about Cole Adams?
Or Cole Adams, of course. And don't want to forget Cole Adams, favorite of the show. But look, the question to me is, it's clear that Ryan Williams is having some effort issues. There's no doubt about that. But how much also, though, is that just not having a comfort level playing inside versus outside? And at a certain point, do you have to address that, or do you keep hammering home until he gets where he needs to be? Because it makes sense that he should be really good, where you can move him inside and he can create some matchup problems. But if it's just not translating and he's not comfortable going over the middle, then you need to adjust. So I'm curious if we see that start to constrict over the course of the season if he doesn't respond well.
Here's an interesting fact for you. Assuming Ryan Williams comes out of the draft early,
yeah,
he'll expect given his talent level. Next week's game against Missouri is the halfway point of his Alabama career.
Yeah.
Excluding possible SEC championship playoff games. Those are,
yeah.
well, we don't know if they're going to happen or not. But in terms of games that are actually on the schedule, next week against Missouri is the halfway point of Ryan Williams' career if he comes out after his junior year.
When he comes out after his junior year.
When. So you're already halfway through what you potentially might see from Ryan Williams. I know he's young, he's only 18, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but you're basically halfway through.
Yeah, that's very interesting to think about. It's an interesting perspective. Alex got a good story up with kind of Kalen DeBoer talking about Ryan Williams and I guess the struggles or lack of effort, things like that. I do want to point out too is, and Kalen DeBoer pointed out as well. Yeah, it was a terrible, terrible drop, but he did have a couple big catches, I believe. On third down, he whiffed on a block, but you could see the effort was a little bit more there in the second half. I think things should be okay there.
I think it's a confidence issue.
Yeah,
and I think AJ, friend of the show, made a good point about how he catches the football now, not really catching it with his hands. Yeah, it's clutching everything to his chest. I think he's in his own head. And look, we said all last year, he's only 17. And now it's like, he's only 18. Yeah. Like there's a piece of it where it's like, I get he makes north of $1 million in all likelihood. Not even in all likelihood. That's a slam dunk fact. Yeah. And it's easy to say he's not performing, and he isn't. And, he takes all these opportunities, which nobody would really pass up, to be a face of college football, to be a face of this program. And there's some criticism that comes with it. So, but it's tough because where is he really in his understanding of playing football? That's the thing that I sort of struggle with is where's the confidence, where's the understanding of how to play receiver at an elite level, because he is only 18, and how far can he come? How much of this is effort and how much of this is understanding and just flat out confidence?
This statement would be wild to think about 1 year ago this week, but should he have stayed in school for one more year in high school?
I mean,
it's one of those things. It's like, what else is going to do at the high school level? But to your point, Alex's point, it's more football, it's more experience. It's he
would have been the only 3-time Mr. Football in the state of Alabama. Yeah. I don't know if they would have been like, hey, Ryan, we really want you to work blocking. I mean, that's not what you do.
Right. That's
kind of like when Saban was asked about Will Anderson and dropping into coverage. He's like, why would I do anything other than have Will Anderson rush the quarterback? But
the story he always tells
there's clearly an emotional maturity thing going on. It makes sense because he's only 18. So I don't think that's an unfair point, but yeah, it's wild to think about.
Derrick Henry was never used as a pass protector in high school. So when he had to do it in not the NFL, in college, basically, it was the NFL. He never knew how to do it and told Saban, like, they never had me do this. They just gave me the ball and had me run.
Here's the really good news for Alabama. If Ryan Williams is your third receiver, fine.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's fine because Jeremy Bernard is playing an elite level. Isaiah Horton's coming on, and Lazier Brooks just continues to make plays. So he's got the safety net to be able to sort of figure this out, and you've got to think that behind the scenes they're doing everything they can to get him more comfortable, to light a fire under his butt and get him playing at the level they know he can. And frankly, it's just, again, it's hard to imagine Alabama competing or winning a national championship without Ryan Williams making plays. You're going to need that at some point. So they need to find a way to get him right.
I think there's an emotional maturity that needs to improve.
Yeah.
Even like I was watching this interview that he did with Mark Ingram, on Big Noon Kickoff last week, and they showed a clip of him scoring a touchdown against Wisconsin, the one with the longer one, or I guess it was a shorter one. It was a longer pass.
He hit the brakes, yeah.
Right. It was the longer pass, but the shorter actual yardage on a touchdown. And he went in front of the camera and said, "I'm back."
Yeah.
Which, like,
and then he drops a pass.
Right. It's just, you got to even out something in your head there, which, again, he's young. That's the way he thinks. But I've also covered players who are young and I think have a little bit steadier head on their shoulders. So you just got to find that somewhere with them.
Yeah. Well, to Alex's point, if Ryan Williams falls to your wide receiver 3, you're in a pretty good spot. But yeah, he needs to continue to make plays, and it doesn't hurt either when there's like you said, Lazier Brooks looks like Jalen Waddle maybe with the, I think
I mistakenly called him Jalen Waddle in the press box.
The 17 just really helps it, and he's
the low center of gravity.
He's making plays on special teams. And again, I'm not trying to contradict myself or Alex's thoughts. We know what the talent Ryan Williams is.
Yeah.
Ryan Williams is going to continue to play. Lotier Brooks is playing very well as well, and I just want to make that noted. Lottie. Flipping over to defense, lots of injuries. James Smith is out for the first half against Vanderbilt because of targeting, a targeting call in the Georgia game. Jamarian Langston is out. Russaw is dealing with a foot injury. He's going to be out for an extended period of time. Who's up? What's next? Kind of let's have the lay of the land from Alex. Alex, shaking your head.
Everybody is up.
Where's the help coming from?
I think you're going to continue to see Kane rotate a lot of bodies, and as I wrote yesterday, I think the answer, at least on third down, for that Wolf outside linebacker position is Deontay Lawson. I think he's got all the traits to say he can come off the edge. I didn't even realize that when he came to Alabama, he said that was sort of the thing he was thinking he was going to do, was play outside, and he got moved inside, and it was just that way ever since. And I talked about it coming out of last season when Jahad Campbell left, like, who's that guy that at inside linebacker that they could move around as like a chess piece. And if you looked at the advanced pressure rates kind of numbers, Deontay didn't rush the passer a lot, but he was pretty successful. He was third only behind Jahad and Q Robinson last year in terms of pressure rate. So all those things are sort of lining up. And then what we saw when we were able to watch practice way back when, every single time he was doing drills with outside linebackers, with defensive ends, trying to work on that skill. And then after practice, doing even more with Jamie Mosley, the assistant coach. So I think he's going to figure in heavily at that outside linebacker position. But then I think everywhere else, you're going to continue to see a heavy rotation. I think Edric Hills showed some stuff. I think you continue to put London Simmons out there. The question for me really is, if you do, A, what do you get out of Justin Hill? Because he's a little bit of a wild card. But B, like, how do you start to rely more on Justin Jefferson and Nikhai Hill-Green at linebacker? Because they've had moments where they've looked a little bit lost. So Kane's got a lot on his plate right now, and Vanderbilt on top of it. It's not an enviable position to be, but he's got to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Kane, you're equal parts giddy and equal parts shitting your pants after that Georgia game. I mean, those last two drives that Georgia had, obviously Alabama's trying to hold on to this lead. They haven't scored a single point in the second half. You have the fourth down stop where LT Overton saves the day. And then you have, I was just looking at the play-by-play, so Georgia gets basically the midfield with a first down, and then 1 yard pass to Colby Young, pass broken up by Dre Kirkpatrick on second down, and then Cash Jones stopped for a loss of 4 yards by Dijon Lee on third down, and Georgia punts because it's 4th and 13. So two pretty key sequences. And that second drive, they were like pulling everybody off the bench. Dre Kirkpatrick was in the game. Dijon Lee was in the game.
Red Morgan make an appearance?
Red Morgan was in the game.
Noah Carter almost played.
All right, Justin Hill. Yeah. I mean, it was like everybody on the field right now. And it was great for the defense. You had a bunch of dudes who have almost never played college football who were out there in the fourth quarter of a game at Georgia and stopped Georgia's offense. So, like, giddy, great. But at the same time, it's like, holy crap, how do we do that? And I don't know if that's sustainable. So it's an interesting kind of dichotomy for the defense right now. Be interested to see just, obviously the health is it's not just what's happened to this point. Beeman, Keenan for 3 games, Quay, Latham. It's what's the next injury.
Yeah.
And you have these 4 games before the bye when last year you got really worn down in the secondary. That Tennessee game was the game everybody always talks about where you had like 5 guys in practice, and that's the game where Sab was running around with a broken foot and all that. And Sab, by the way, was in a black jersey on Tuesday's practice, and he was not in the game at the end. That's why Dre was in there, I think, because Sab was out of the game. So we'll have to see what the injury report looks like on Wednesday night. But it's what's the next injury? I mean, you're already thin at Wolf. You're already thin at tackle. Like, you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants right now. And again, you feel good about how some of these guys have played, but you're not going to have James Smith in the first half of this game. And you're just trying to manufacture a pass rush. You're trying to hope you can stop the run. Kane was painting an optimistic picture of that on Monday, saying that if you exclude the 6 bad runs, the rest of them are good, which is true. But
I think he was less saying exclude the bad runs, is they pointing out all the bad runs were perimeter runs.
Right. But at the end of the day,
you can't take those out of the equation. Yes. Absolutely.
And here's all the other ones. It was, a trend that he was trying to point out. I agree. But you have questions about Damani Jackson after this game. Yeah. You have a rotation at corner that seemed to be a little bit more aggressive in this past game, with Dijon Lee getting in the game a little bit more than what we've seen. So, look, this is probably the best offense they've played. And Florida State looked really good on offense. Georgia looked good against Tennessee on offense. This is probably the best offense that you've played. Again, crazy thought, but that's what the stats say right now. They're number 1 in ESPN's efficiency ranking, which takes into account opponent strength.
I can't bring myself to say for Alabama that this is a statement game, but there's so many statements they can make as far as this is the best offense they're going to play. This is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think people need to start recognizing that. And you're coming off a game against Georgia where you need to prove that, hey, we're not going to fall victim to what happened last year, and we're going to refocus on this game. So there's so many things that are sort of going into it that Alabama has a lot to prove against Vanderbilt. And it's just like, I look at myself on the screen saying it, and it doesn't feel right, but it is true.
It's true. And you can absolutely envision a way for Vandy to win this game. But again, I think if Vandy wins this game, it will almost be more about their defense, because their defense needs to hold Alabama to less than 30 to
yes, the football X's and O's, you might be able to say that. Everyone else, Mike, including you, would be like Diego Pavia.
Right. It's Diego Pavia. That's the sexy matchup. But to me, I have COPD.
Theo Vaughn joke, but I'm
right. Choking on something there. I don't know. But look.
Choking on context. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It's how many points can Ty Simpson, how well can they take advantage of whatever vulnerabilities there are with this Vandy defense? I think that's the story of the game to me. Because I think Diego Pavia is going to be able to put some points on you.
I think a big thing too.
Alabama's defense shuts him down. Statement. Yeah. If Alabama wins this game, somewhat of a statement. It depends on what the kind of the margin is, but the same thing's going to hold true. Like last week, we said that you beat Georgia on the road. What happens against Vandy? Well, the same thing's going to happen this week. You beat Vandy at home. Everybody's going to say, do you have a letdown game at 11 a.m. in Columbia, Missouri next week? So that's the nature of this schedule. There's always going to be the next game, and there's no gimmies on this schedule for Alabama this year other than Eastern Illinois, and it's just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah. Kind of back to the defense just a little bit. Bray Hubbard, we talked about it in the reaction pod on Sunday, played a lot of basically like kind of linebacker. What would we like for against Georgia? Alex, you talked about it there. Deontay Lawson potentially going to play off the edges. Do you think Bray Hubbard is going to continue to kind of play up in this Alabama defense alongside Nikhil Green? And just because I think we've talked about off camera, we talked about on camera, you look at this defense and say, who's going to make a play? Bray, to me at least, kind of is the pick on my end, and he continues to make plays. You want him close to Pavia, near that line of scrimmage. Do you feel like that's kind of going to be similar game plan?
Yeah, I think he's going to continue. I think if Kane wants to roll the dice and blitz, I think Bray is one of his better options. The risk reward of it is if you keep bringing Bray into the box, it's not so much throwing over the top of Bray that scares me. It's if a guy breaks containment, who's going to go chase him down? Like that's been the issues when Bray's gets caught a little bit in the traffic, and then there's no set edge. And some of that is incumbent upon Damani and Zabian on the outside, getting off blocks and sort of contributing in rush defense. But I think you got to continue to be creative with Bray. I just think you need to be really careful, because I think ultimately Kane and this defense are going to be fine with giving up 5, 6, 7 yards. I think it's the big play that they need to find a way to limit, because they have the offense to support them. It's just a matter of can you keep those 20+ yard plays off the board?
Right. I think, and I would have to go back and watch the game more closely to say this definitively, but I think because they started the game in a 3-4, Georgia's not a team that's going to spread you out with a lot of 3-4 wide receiver sets. They're not a team that's going to throw downfield on you a whole lot. So I think a lot of that might just
They did. Bounced off his hands.
Right. But even so, air yards per pass attempt, Georgia through their 4 games ranks 134th in the country. They average
Bobo. How are you?
5.8 yards per pass attempt in the air. The only 2 teams that have thrown the ball less far, if you will, are Jacksonville State and Bowling Green. And by the way, Alabama is not particularly high on that list either. They're 105th in the country. Ty Simpson is among the quarterbacks who have thrown the ball the least distance this year.
I think a lot of that, though, is just leaning heavily on the screen game and knowing that's how you supplement the running game, because he is also taking shots deep. It's not like he's not doing that.
Right. And that's Georgia's game as well. They were all about the screen, and Alabama did a good job with that. Now, on the flip side, Florida State, number 5 in the country in air yards per pass attempt, 11.3. They got you on one of those to squirrel right. Vandy is not very far behind, 20th in the country, 9.7 air yards per attempt. I think you might have to play Bray back and play a little bit more to safety look than what you did against Georgia. So I think some of that is just game plan specific to your opponent. And that I wouldn't read a whole lot into Bray playing closer to the line of scrimmage is what I'm getting at.
When you say all that, what comes to mind to me is, where's Keon Sabb? And is this a game where we start to see him emerge? I think he's still feeling his way through the foot. But if Vanderbilt is going to take shots deep, and what you're saying there indicates that it's going to be yes, Sabb is the center fielder on this team, and we just have not heard his name called a whole bunch. And maybe is this the game where it happens, or is this the game where we look at him and go, man, he's just not right now?
Is Sabb wearing a black jersey because of his foot or something else? We don't necessarily know the answer, but it would not shock me to see him on the injury report tonight.
Yeah, 100%. I was kind of just doing just additional notes to see it. You talk about this run defense and the injuries. I think Vanderbilt and Missouri are the number 1 and 2 rush offenses in the SEC. So Alabama
helps.
Great. Good point.
Ridiculous Missouri schedule. I don't
know. Good point.
Do you not like to compete? Do you not like money? And
they're gonna start competing. I don't know if you saw their new SEC schedule, but they're
good. Give them everybody. If they're not going to play out of the conference, I just don't get it.
A well-rested Missouri team against Alabama, and I think they will gladly play.
I just think if SEC fans want to go nuts over Indiana, and you have every right to do that, you should also look at teams in the conference and say, what are you doing? Like, what is this?
I think they do. Believe me.
I do want to bring up special teams again, just because we talk about it every show, and we were proved pretty much right. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainties there. Do we see another kicker on Saturday potentially, Alex or Mike? I don't think so. I keep seeing that video. I'm like, where did it get blocked? Where?
If I thought Connor Talty didn't have the leg, then yeah. But if I thought they had a better option, then yeah. But I don't think they do. I think they just got to figure it out with him or work around him. And maybe it's just like, we're a kicking team in Bryant-Denny and we're not a kicking team everywhere else. I don't know what it is, but I don't think you make a move. Be weird if you did, because all season you've been talking about how he responds well and you like his confidence and yada, yada, yada. But it just looks like one of those things that you circle and say, it's not a matter of when, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That's going to come back to bite you.
And there was a quiet competition. Oh, I'm just holding a portable battery. I don't know why I was doing that. Just I'm nervous. I'm like a kicker in a big there was a competition at kicker this fall camp. It was Peter Notaro who came in as a freshman this summer, PWO, I believe. So, and if you listen to Jay Nunez and some of the interviews he did, like, it was a legit thing. Like, they were looking at Notaro. They were looking at Talty. Like, was it ever really going to be Notaro? I don't know. But I don't know. It's one of those where I don't know exactly how to play it. I think Kalen's playbook in this one will probably be to pump as much confidence as he can into Talty. I don't think he's going to say anything publicly about him, but the next time he lines up for a kick, Kalen is biting his fingernails internally because you just don't know what it's going to look like. And it seemed like Kalen was also indicating there was issues with the snap and the hold in that case. So you have a new punter / holder, and you also have 2 snappers that you're kind of flip-flopping. I would have to go back and look to see who has done each thing, but you have one doing extra points and you have one doing field goals from what I've seen. And how's that all looking right now? I don't know. It's not a part of the game we talk about a whole lot, but Connor Talty misses a kick in a key situation. We're going to be talking about it more, and that was as ugly of a miss you're probably ever going to see. So
for those laughing,
don't forget they had a special teams miscue against Wisconsin too on the return part of it. So it's not just Talty. There's issues kind of all the way around.
Yeah. So for those who maybe laughed or scoffed or skipped through the July special teams preview, this is why we do it. It was going to be a thing, and like Alex said, it's when does it come up again in a November or late October game? It's something to talk about, and we'll continue to do so.
There's a game in South Carolina. There's a game in Auburn. There's going to be games where he's going to have to go on the road and make plays.
Alabama's never had any special teams issues at Auburn. I don't know what you're talking about.
On that note, we will wrap it up. Anything final that you didn't get out or you want to be known, anything like that going into Alabama versus Vanderbilt, 2:30 p.m. ABC top 20 matchup, college game day. That's just it's crazy. It should be fun in Tuscaloosa. It's probably up crowd, exciting. All is well. Most Alabama fans are, everything's well in the world, so it should be an exciting crowd. But
I don't get the sense that Vandy's going to wilt in the environment.
Yeah.
I feel like I like Clark Lehman. I've listened to a little bit of him this week. Like, boring as hell, but there's just a certain energy about this team. And it's a weird mix too between Clark Lee and Diego Pavia, but it's been working for him. I don't know. Like, I don't think they're going to just crumble like some teams seem to do. Mike Leach would always say that, like, you play Alabama and you just lose your mind because of the name on the jersey. So I don't think it's going to be a game where Alabama just blows them out. If they do, then it's a statement game, and that's a good thing for Alabama. But I think you have a legit game on your hands. And imagine if Vandy wins this game. You're talking about a top 10, top 5 Vandy team. Like, how far would they go? It's insane, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I think that's the way Alabama needs to think. I think they're trying to have a much different mental space than what they had last year. And look, they tried last year. I was going back and reading. I remember talking to Jamarcus Shepard this week last year after the Georgia game, after Ryan Williams. And he was kind of little testy with me because I was asking about how great Ryan Williams was in that game. And Shepard said, "You don't have a choice as receivers. All right, I hate to say this, and this may sound terrible, but this is not a democracy, all right? We're going to be moving on to Vanderbilt, all right? All right, nobody cares about what you did before. It's the epitome of going 1-0, which our head football coach asked us to do every day." And then he went on to say that we were making too big of a deal out of the Georgia game. And as much praise as they may have for you this week, the next week they can really tell you how bad you are if you don't perform at a high level in this next game against Vanderbilt, which was prophetic in some ways. So
that's all very true. I think there are a couple of key differences. One, Alabama is not unaware of how good Vanderbilt is and what they are. I think there's some of catching them early like they did last year. I don't think they knew what they were getting into. And two, I don't think they knew then how bad they could be. Honestly, I don't think they knew how low their floor was as a football team. And they learned that last year, and they learned that again against Florida State. And the challenge is, how do you continue to hold on to that feeling of what happened against Florida State and not let all the good things that are being said about you affect you? I'm more hopeful because of those two things that Alabama should know about itself and should know about Vanderbilt. But they also have to go out there and show it and play with that energy and that edge and not let this become, an issue game for them.
Yeah, it's something where even Ty said yesterday, it's Alabama against the world is what they want to see themselves as. And I think they maybe will feed off the energy of people watching this game nationally. And obviously outside of Alabama, a lot of people are going to be rooting for Vandy. And maybe they can feed off of that the same way that they should have last year, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, loaded show. Again, Alabama versus Vanderbilt in Bryant-Denny Stadium, 2:30 ABC. Mike and Alex will be there providing full coverage. All 4 5-star Alabama commits, top-ranked recruits, a couple basketball guys, and some other people will be on the sidelines as well. Should be – oh, Mike, sorry, weather report? I know it's Wednesday, but it's going to be pretty –
models showing us.
It's pretty warm, I think. It's going to be 80s again. Big question will be whether Kalen DeBoer wears his black hoodie or if he makes a statement and he says, I don't care about what happened last year, and he comes out in the same red shirt that he wore last year. That would be
I think people would – you're trying to ignite the fan base.
But that's like, wouldn't that be the greatest like F you to all of those people who talk about your clothes every week? Be like, I'm going to wear this shirt that I wore when we lost to Vandy last year. I'm going to beat him this time, and I'm going to prove that it doesn't matter what I'm wearing every week.
Just the poor. He's probably sitting there. He's like, I wore whatever the hell I wanted at Washington. Nobody said a word.
Right.
Now I have to have 75 black pullovers in my closet. That's all I can have. But all righty, guys. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. And we will be back on Sunday.